Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about California LLC operating agreements. I know. That's an exciting topic. Kidding. No, seriously though. LLC operating agreements are something that unless you have an LLC, you may or may not be familiar with. So I want to break it down for you, especially if you're thinking about starting a business. Now, I'm premising this with yesterday's video when we talked about contracts. The reason why contracts are awesome, you're going to want to check that video out. But more to the point, this one is kind of like the next step of why contracts are awesome. Okay. So, point is that if you're starting a business and you don't know what you don't know, and there's a lot, like I'm just saying there's a lot to know about starting your own business. This is one of those things that people think that you can just kind of do whatever you want and it's okay. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. Okay. And we'll talk about that. So, if you're new here, my name is Taylor Darcy from Think Legal, where I help you create the business of your dreams. So welcome. I'm happy to have you. Please feel free to chat amongst yourselves, leave comments. I'm happy to help in any way I can. If you're watching this on the replay and there's something that wasn't quite clear, please leave a comment and I'm happy to answer as time permits. Or I may just do a complete video about it. Just because if there's enough questions about it that I want to make sure that it's covered. So please don't hesitate, get involved, meet your fellow entrepreneurs and business owners and all that fun stuff, because that's what I'm here for, to help build a community, to help build your business. Okay. Legally and right. That would be the best way of saying it. Before we begin on talking about operating agreements, I want to talk about entrepreneurship in general. It is a hard road. Anybody that's been in business for more than 30 seconds realizes that there's never enough money and there's never enough time. And those two things can put you into a catatonic state where you don't know what your next step should be. And that's okay. Not being in the catatonic state, but not knowing what your next step should be. There are resources out there. There are mentors. There are people that have done it before. One of my favorite sayings from Sean Cannell from Think Media, he says, success leaves blueprints, right? So the reason why that's important is that when you're thinking about doing something, you don't have to reinvent the wheel for it. Okay, you don't have to keep trying to do something completely new, because in reality is, and this is true, there's nothing new under the sun for the most part, unless you're even Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Apple. Okay, they took things that had already been invented and they're reiterating it, right? They're redoing things. Are there innovations? Yes. See, there's a difference. You're not starting from the wheel, right? You're starting with things that already exist. And innovating is not the same thing as inventing, right? Innovation. So don't get overwhelmed and get into that catatonic state of all the things that you have to do or the things that you don't have money to do, right? Start with what you can do. There's a video that, a TikTok actually, where a young girl is in a backseat of her parents' car, and the father up front is trying to help her. And the girl says, "You worry about yourself. You drive." And my wife and I, whenever there's something that my kids do that is like something that has nothing to do with the other kid, that's one of the things we refer to. You worry about yourself. And we refer to that video often for that reason, because we get caught in this trap of trying to worry about what other people do well, they're doing this. Like, for instance, me, I'm doing these videos. You don't have to do these videos. I do these videos to help you, to try to gain, to give you insight into business and to law, to help you build your business. Do you have to do these? No. You can do something completely else. One of my favorite things is watching people with DIY videos, right? I love watching DIY videos. They're fun to watch. I get addictive. You go from one to the next, and it's just like, before you know it, you spend an hour just scrolling through DIY videos. Why? It's interesting to see a before and after, right? So take these thoughts into mind. Worry about what you can control. And let me let you in on a little secret. The only thing you truly can control in this life is yourself. And when you take that freedom of knowledge and you realize that that's true, then everything else, the things that you can't fix, the things that you can't do, kind of fade away into the background. There's always, in the entrepreneur world, there's always something you could be doing. But I promise you that a lot of things can wait till tomorrow. Okay? There are some things that are urgent that you have to get done. Don't mistake this as saying put off everything. Action today is worth a lot more than action tomorrow. Don't get me wrong. But don't get trapped into thinking that it has to be done today, because it doesn't. Okay? So, on to operating agreements. An operating agreement is to an LLC like bylaws are to a corporation. It's essential. Corporations require bylaws. LLCs require an operating agreement. One of the trends that I see among a lot of business owners, especially small business owners, is they're so busy DIYing it, which is fine, not debating that you shouldn't do as much as you can, that they're cutting corners when they shouldn't. And there's two places. If you take nothing from any of part of this video other than what I'm about to tell you, this is the nugget. This is the gold right here. This is the thing that you should not be scrimping and saving on. Okay, these are the things that you should be spending your money on before you're doing a marketing plan, before you're doing a business plan. You should be having a good attorney. I know I'm biased, but it's true. I think those are number one. Now, I'm not plugging for myself here necessarily. Unless you're in California, I can't help you. Like if you're in Illinois or Washington or something of that nature, find a local business attorney that can help you, because they are worth their weight in gold. Truly, they will save you so much time and so much money and so much stress that you will thank me for it. I promise you. That's number one. The other thing is a CPA. Okay, having a CPA is your next gold. Right? They're the ones that are going to help you with your taxes, dealing with the things, the headaches, the messes that you don't want. Now, as a bonus one, the next thing you're going to want is a bookkeeper, someone that can handle your books. They can do it right. They can offload that off your plate. That should be part of your budget. That should be something that is included in that. Next comes your marketing plan. Why? Marketing equals money. Marketing is something that you should have included in your budget, right? You should not think that you can just get away with no marketing whatsoever and expect to succeed. Now, I know this is controversial because a lot of entrepreneurs think they can just ignore this next one. They can't. Is a full-on business plan. Why? Because the old saying, if you fail to plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Yes, there we go. This is so important. Even if it's just a bare bones skeleton, not deep analysis, like I'm going to go crazy with this. Even if it's just breaking down, okay, here's my target market. Here's how we're going to target our market. Here's my products that I'm going to offer. Here's the products the cost that I'm going to offer, or the price that I'm going to offer them for. You start doing these rough plans, and then as time goes on, you develop it into a full plan, okay? And whether the product is an actual physical, tangible, product, or whether it's you, remember, there's one of you. There's only 24 hours in the day, so there's very limited. Your time has value to it, right? Just like a product does. You can't sell more than 24 hours in a day as a service business. So just keep that in mind when you're making these plans. where you need to value. I helped a previous client of mine a while ago who was trying to start a business and only charge what she'd been paid as an employee. And I'd have a little bit of a heart-to-heart with her because I said, if you only charge what you would charge as an employee, then you'll never grow. You won't have the income to be able to pay for your marketing, to pay for your legal, to pay for all of these things. And so I pass that advice on to you, is you need to charge what it's worth, right? Like not only what it's worth, but so that you can not just have a business, but have more than that, have it grow to what you want it to be. So an operating agreement, and this is why I was saying I wanted to talk about this before. An operating agreement is some of the discussion that you need to have, how you're going to legally operate your LLC, okay? An LLC is a business entity just like a corporation, just like a partnership. It has similar functions. The difference is, as a sole proprietor, you don't have to have an operating agreement. It's whatever you say it is. But in an LLC, you have to have, just like bylaws for a corporation, you have to have an operating agreement, okay? So the next part of an operating agreement is it sets the rules for your company, right? Like it outlines where is it going to be located, who's going to be the registered agent, what is your principal place of business, how is it going to be taxed. All of these things are important because you now are an official business entity. And these are the requirements of not only the Secretary of State of California anyway, but it's also for IRS purposes. How are you going to split your profits if you're in a partnership? Is it going to be 50-50, 60-40, 30-70, whatever, right? That's what an operating agreement does. That's why it outlines these very important things. Like, how will some disputes be resolved? Now, I use that as very, there's other ways to do it. There's what's called a buy-sell agreement that does this better. Okay, so we're not going to get into the weeds on that one, but I've done other videos on the buy-sell agreement. Take a look at this channel, search it for buy-sell agreement, and then the value. That's worth some serious gold nuggets right there for you. The next thing, and this is probably one of the important things, is that in California, you have what are called default rules. And they are the rules that, if you don't pick otherwise, are what the rules for your LLC are. So if you don't have an operating agreement and you don't like something about those default rules, then that's on you, right? You're bound by those default rules versus you can contract around them. This is why contracts are awesome, by changing those default rules to what's better for your company. And then that's what you're bound by within that company. See the magic that is corporate or contracts. So the next thing is that an operating agreement proves who owns it. If you've ever looked at the Articles of Organization, which is what you file with the Secretary of State, it doesn't outline who owns it. It only outlines who runs it. And a lot of times that's true where they do both, but not always. Okay, so the operating agreement proves the ownership, proves who owns it, not who runs it, who owns it. Now, you can have member managed or you can have manager managed, and those are just, depends on how you have your business set up. That's the next thing. Part of your agreement for your limited liability status is that you will maintain a separate entity from yourself. And an operating agreement does this. So people think, oh, I've got an LLC. I'm good. Yay. Raise the roof, right? But that's not all you have to do. You have to do an operating agreement to maintain that separate structure from yourself, right? It's a complete separate entity. So if you want to enjoy the benefits of a limited liability company, you have to treat it like a limited liability company. You have to treat it like a company, right? And that means having that operating agreement. One of my big pet peeves with LegalZoom, I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a second, is they can't by law draft an operating agreement for you. So they'll sell you this big old package, $400, $500, $600, maybe even $700 of something, of all of these things that they can do by law. There's nothing wrong with the things that they can do. But what they don't do is provide you with what you need, and that's the operating agreement, because that's considered practicing law in California. So the problem is that if you're spending money at LegalZoom or some of these other types of companies, yeah, it's easier than doing it yourself, which is ironic because they actually just take the information that you input and file it, which is kind of lame, in my opinion, but that's what they do. That's why you want to make sure that you're following up. That's my big pet peeve with LegalZoom, is that it's expensive and you're not even getting the protection that you need by having that operating agreement, right? Like, that operating agreement is important for you to be able to maintain your liability status, or your limited liability status. Okay. So the next question, or the next thing that needs to be talked about is, do single member LLCs need an operating agreement? And the answer is yes. While you're not likely to have argument with yourself most of the time. Okay, I'm guilty. I have arguments with myself, but you know what I mean, right? Like, you're not going to have an argument with yourself, but most of the time. But there is those moments. But a single member LLC operating agreement isn't about that. It's complying with the law, right? You're not going to argue with yourself. You can change it at any time. There's nothing that says you have to keep going with the same operating agreement. But the point is that you're complying with the law. And the law in California is that you have to have an operating agreement. So even if you're a single member, you need an operating agreement, which, again, LegalZoom can't do. So you're getting charged a lot of money for not a lot of benefit. Okay. The next one, and this is probably the most common question that I get asked, and that's important for an operating agreement. Do I need an attorney to draft an operating agreement? The short answer is no. You don't have to have an attorney. But should you have an attorney? And although I'm biased in favor of this answer, I'm going to throw it out there. My short answer is yes, you should have an attorney draft your operating agreement. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean me, okay? I'm talking about an attorney in your local area, or myself if you're in California. And the reason for this simply is this. This is what we do. Just like I don't do taxes. There's a reason why I don't do taxes. I don't want to do taxes. That's why I send my clients to CPAs. That's why I have a bookkeeper. That's why I do all of these different things, because they're better at their jobs than I am at that. Like, from a time perspective, I'd much rather be talking about making these videos, spending my time with you, than doing accounting or doing CPA. Just like you should be spending time working on your business, not doing the hard stuff that another person has gone to years and years of school to do. So do you have to have an attorney draft your operating agreement? No, there is no law that says you have to have an attorney draft your operating agreement. But should you? Yes, the answer is yes, you should, because we can do it faster, better, easier, and it's going to be legally compliant, right? And a worst case, if for some reason, and this is if we screw up, which I'm not saying we will, but I'm saying if, I can't speak for anybody else, but I know I will make it right. If I make an error on something, that's coming out of my pocket. I'll fix it. I'll pay to have it fixed. I've had horror stories of people that have gone to LegalZoom for things, and they screw up. The client calls them on it, and then they charge the client to fix it. And then they screw up again, and it's this never-ending cycle. And so they end up paying more than what it would have cost them to just go straight to me to have something incorrect and then have to correct it again, and then the time that it takes. Because the Secretary of State is not a short process. Their times vary from anywhere from a few days to several weeks. So do you want to risk that they're going to screw it up a couple of times before you decide to do it differently? I'm a bigger fan of getting it done right the first time, right? Just like that's why I go to my accountants. That's why I go to CPAs. That's why I go to a doctor and not a dentist unless it's a tooth thing, right? Like that's just the logic. Like I go to the people that can do the work for better than I can do it for those same reasons. Because number one, they like doing it, hopefully. And number two, it's better. They do a better job of it. Like that's just how it is. Like I'm a business attorney. I handle business transactions. I don't handle personal injury. My point in telling you that is that I refer people to personal injury attorneys because that's what they like to do. That's what they're good at. They're better at it than I am. And that's okay, right? Like, I mean, it would be really boring if everyone was the same. If everyone was an automaton, right? Like, well, we did all the exact same things. The beauty of this life is that everybody gets to be different. So use those differences to be happy and to make your life better, right? Like somebody that paints artwork. Oh, my heart loves great art, but I could never do that. Me and stick figures have a problem, right? Like I struggle with stick figures. That's just me. But that same person probably couldn't draft a contract to save their life, at least not a good one, right? Not dissing them. I'm grateful for their artistic work. I'm grateful for the people that are better at things than I am, right? I can't be everything to everyone, just like you can't be. So you be the best version of yourself and leave the legal stuff to us. Leave the accounting to the accountants. Leave the dental work to the dentist, whatever it may be, right? So, if you've gotten value out of this video, don't forget to hit subscribe and like, and just know that we go live Monday through Friday at 11. And I look forward to meeting with you. Leave a comment below if you have any questions. We'll talk to you soon.